3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Lots to get to on today's program as we talk more Gamecock football. We have a new offensive coordinator. It's not officially official, but I know our own Chris Clark was digging on that last night. Yours truly getting some confirmation today from people around the program that, yes, Mike Shula will be the guy running the offense. And I think this is a good move. Listen, I've seen some snark, believe it or not, Elijah, and I know this is going to shock you, but there are some snarky people on Twitter from time to time.
Nah, I don't believe that. I believe it when I see it,
man.
buddy.
I thought you were getting ready to break into a John Anthony right there. That was good.
I got a monster game for you. Side and total.
But a lot of people, if you only want to go back and look at a coach's, if you want to just, I can carve out almost anything from anybody's career and say, yeah, he was the guy that did that. And you'd be like, yeah. But I think he's really settled in nicely on this staff. As we said, while Dowell Loggins officially had the title of quarterback coach, in addition, of course, to offensive coordinator, we know Mike Shula was directly involved daily. In fact, how often, and I know you go to Shane's press conferences, both, the Tuesdays and the post games. How many times did we hear him, and I'm asking this somewhat rhetorically, mention in the same sentence in terms of Lenoris's development, Dowell and Mike?
Yep.
Right?
He alluded to Mike having a vital role in that development.
Yeah, like when he would talk about sitting in the quarterback room with him. Dowell and Mike. So anyway, I like this. Look, anything else, it's change. It'll be different. How different? I think one of the things that Shane probably looked at was continuity, as best you can possibly keep it anyway. We had Ryan Brewer telling us about verbiage and how it can be the same exact concept, same exact play design, but different language and just, having to relearn. So for Lenoris, for the receivers, for a bunch of the linemen that'll be back, if you can keep everything in place and build upon it and only have the newcomers, whomever they may be, and you'll get some newcomers everywhere to learn it, you're in better shape, right? And I think that's smart. Mike has history as a play caller. He's obviously got a brilliant offensive mind. And I do like the fact, however you want to look at it, and we all need to be careful here. But however you look at it, he did coach Cam Newton for several years. And I
oversaw his development.
Yeah, I don't want to put that on Lenoris. But here's another simple fact of life in today's world. It's already there. And it's like, hey, and I'm joking when I say this, like, hey, Lenoris, you don't want to be compared to Cam Newton? Don't do Cam Newton stuff.
Don't do Newtonian stuff on a football field.
And I'm kidding, of course, to make the point here that I like this hire. I don't know that you needed to cast a super wide net when you've got that kind of resume. And just go look at the resume and forget it. Listen, both of these guys, in a sense, are always going to have to live up to something with the last name, right? When I say both, I mean Shane and now Mike. Elijah, can I ask you a question? Who's the all-time winningest coach in the history of the National Football League?
That would be Don Shula.
Thank you very much.
I think Mike Shula knows Don Shula.
He does. And so, there's always been that. But there's a proven track record there. And like I say, I think the continuity alone is a huge factor in this. But if it wasn't something that was going to work or had been working, or it's like, well, he's been around, but he's not really doing anything, then you make another move. So there you go. But not official as of yet. Was talking to a few folks, and a consensus that I agree with is maybe an official announcement could be delayed until there's a little more solid information on exactly what Dowell Loggins is going to do. We heard Shane talk about it Sunday night in the bowl announcement press conference that they would like. And then when I say they, I think Dowell would like, Shane would like, they would like him to be able to work with the team and go to the bowl game. This is a really good bowl game. It's a really big opportunity to win a 10th football game. It would be something, a nice, final feather in the cap, if you will, for Dow at South Carolina if they can go down and scheme up a plan to beat a really good Illinois team. So we'll see on those things. But otherwise, I think this is a solid move. Want to hear from you guys on what you think of it. 803-404-6100. Langston's going to join us in just a little bit, and we'll get his take on what he knows of Mike Shula and dialing things up and maybe ever going up against him in the NFL, things like that. We'll touch on those things for you in just a little while. Right there at the end of the halftime show, Terry was asking me tonight, the SEC will announce next year's conference dates. And the same teams, so there's nothing different in terms of who your conference opponents will be. You will change venues, but they'll probably shift up the dates a little bit. Like I said, the easiest thing to do, in my opinion, if you're just going to keep it the same anyway, just play them in the same spot. But they may want a little more, spice for television somewhere here or there. And again, South Carolina, Gamecock fans, Williams-Brice is going to host two of the bluest bloods, if you will, in college football next season. And that's really cool. And, you went toe-to-toe with Alabama in their place, didn't get it done. You punched Oklahoma in the mouth, your first ever visit to Norman, first ever game against Oklahoma, and ended up winning that one comfortably out at their ballpark. So they'll want a little something from you next year. And for Gamecock fans, you'll want to show Alabama that, yeah, we can play with you on a regular basis. And Kalen DeBoer is going to have a lot of things to do in the offseason. But you'll go back to Como. Kentucky will come here. What's Kentucky going to look like? How does Clark Lee build Vanderbilt into something that can sustain what they look like this season? Diego Pavias don't grow on trees, but they might be able to go get one. They really might be able. Am I forgetting? That was 7. Oh, Mississippi. Ooh.
Yeah.
Got to go to Oxford.
Got to travel to Vaught Hemingway.
Yeah. Not the most daunting venue in my opinion.
No, I don't think so. I've never been, so I can't check that off the list, right? But at the same time, I have never thought of Vaught Hemingway and been like, ooh, terrifying environment. They will wine and cheese you to death in that stadium.
Could there be some changes to the college football playoff structure even next season? We know 26, when the new deal begins, there's going to be some changes, but could it come even sooner than that? There's a lot of folks. Ross Dellinger talking with Greg Sankey this week. Our buddy Josh Pate weighing in on that as well, so we'll get into that for you coming up in a little while. And later, without giving too much away, I've tweeted about it, so you can find out, and I'm far from alone, I assure you. Yesterday, I'm just going to be very vanilla about this. Yesterday, a politician tried to interject some things into college football. And I'm
sure it was very level-headed and not a rash reaction to anything that's happened within the last 3 weeks.
You nailed it, man.
I always do.
You absolutely.
I'd love to go 5-0 for you.
You know what?
The season's free.
You're not giving anybody free seasons because you nailed it right there. That's exactly what it is. Get into a few NFL things for you too. Braves fans have a day. We had the Max Fried news right at the end of yesterday's show, and when I say right at the end, like at 5:54, 53,
as we were going off the air,
it came out. But Max going to the Yankees, and again, Braves fans, I get it. I'm one of you, and it hurts. But the Braves were not going to be able to do for Max what the Yankees did. The Braves have a lot of money, and the Braves aren't afraid to spend it. But the Braves don't have that kind of money. They just don't. And the Braves, will, we've seen it with Dansby and Freddie of late. They make fair, annual number offers. But what they're not going to do is extend them out with guaranteed money, or in the case of Dansby, same term, but $5 million more per season. And again, with Freddie, he just got up. Here's another full year. Braves aren't going to do that. Yankees, 8 years. And again, the Soto thing. The Soto thing is just.
I'll ask both of those gentlemen for $20. I'm sure they could spare it.
Seriously, the Soto thing is just dumb. And you know what? I saw an article today.
This has Bobby Bonilla potentially written all over it.
Well, it was worse than that because you know who they were comparing him to? Ted Williams. I'm like, what? Where are you? No, what? Okay.
Well, Ted didn't play for 4 different franchises in a 3-year stretch.
I was like, Ted Williams? Really?
A little excessive.
This is what we're doing now? No way. How many times has Juan Soto? I don't know. I feel like Juan Soto's already struck out more than Ted Williams did in his whole career.
We'll get the cracks.
I don't know. I mean, I doubt that's the case.
Getting the intern back here.
I doubt that's the case. Let me hit a couple of phone calls before we talk to our good friend Langston Moore. Trey's gonna, pun intended, bat lead off today. Trey, how you doing, bud?
That's it. I'm good, Jay. How are you doing, man?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Jay, basically, man, I just want to kind of call in and talk a little bit about Mike Shula. I'm an Alabama and South Carolina grad. I know I'm from Tennessee, close to where Elijah is. We're both Tennessee Tech guys. But basically, Jay, I just want to kind of give my view on Mike Shula. I agree that consistency is important. The verbiage is important. Keeping things close together are important. What I'm worried about is once Mike Shula, we get in the season, that he's going to get really conservative, and he may, kind of like Spurrier, unfortunately, kind of beat Lattimore to death. I'm scared that he's going to beat Lenoris to death. I think in that Clemson game where we went power right, 6 times in a row, I think that's kind of going to be close to what we're going to be looking at. But I think Mike's a great football coach. He's a great football mind. I'm not trying to poo-poo on any of that, but I just think that it's something that we need to talk about.
Well, I don't disagree. And one thing that, and I'll say this, Trey, one thing that we have seen, and thanks for the phone call, bud. One thing we have seen, and I have talked about it a bunch, we have seen this current head coach not be afraid to go to his coordinators and say, listen, I don't like what you're doing. I need you. Here's what I want you to do. Scheme it up accordingly. He did it with Marcus. It paid dividends. He did it with Clayton. It paid dividends. He hasn't necessarily had to do it as much with Dowell because I think by the time the things that needed to be changed around Marcus happened and Marcus was gone and Dowell came in, part of the hiring process was, hey, are you going to be aligned with me from the get-go? And think about this, too. Dowell had 2 completely different types of quarterbacks in 2 seasons to work with. I'm with you that you don't want to overuse the guy, right? And one of the things, again, with the Cam comparison, is not so much the abilities, but Cam was just better than you all the time. And Lenoris may feel that way, too. South Carolina's going to need to go get someone that is very close to what Raheem Sanders did this past season. Whether that's somebody they feel they are currently developing or whether that's someone they will get through the portal, I do not yet know. But you will need to go do that. He needs another weapon like Josh Simon at tight end. Maybe you have that. Maybe you don't. I like Mike Smith. Brady Hunt comes back. And so they've got some guys that are good at catching the football, and they're good when they don't have the ball in their hand. So I'm with you. But again, I'm not pushing back either, Trey. I think you raise a fair point. But we've seen this head coach take the reins from his coordinator, or at least look him dead in the eye and go, I don't like what you're doing. This is not what I'm asking you to do. I need you to do, if you're doing X, I need you to do Y. And
he's not afraid to come to Jesus.
No, and it's paid dividends. We've seen it happen. We've seen it work. So that would be my response to that in the short term. And again, we won't play football games till Labor Day. Although tonight when they do this schedule thing, 2/3 of that show will be like predicting matchups for next football season. And I'm not quite ready for that yet because this football season's not over. 803-404-6100. We'll get into a lot more of this throughout the afternoon. We'll get Langston's take on it as well. Our good friend Langston Moore, the former Gamecock, will join us as the post-game show rolls on. Turn the microphone on there, Phillips. That's usually the way to do it in live radio. Sorry, I turned it off for a second there. Let me tell you about our good friends at Integrated Media. See, they won't make these kind of mistakes.
But they shouldn't have to turn the microphone on for you. They will, but they shouldn't have to.
They should not have.
Michael Geddes would.
No, yeah, but they're great guys. And listen, this time of year, especially as we gear up for the postseason in college football, the postseason in professional football, you can actually start paying attention now to professional basketball because games will matter a little bit
Hey,
more.
we got the in-season tournament, buddy.
Yeah, whatever it is that
matter.
you like, do it all better with integrated media. And I'm telling you, when you buy from integrated media, equipment costs are the exact same as they are at any big box store. What you are going to help or get done is the help that you get to get it done right the first time. Plus, home security, outdoor systems, control it all from the app on your phone. I love these guys. You will too. 803-948-8327, Integrated Media. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Lettuce bringing us back in. Langston Moore joins us in just a second. My good friend Will King just hit me and said, am I insinuating Rocket won't be here next year? He is a senior. I'm under the impression he's done. Am I mistaken that he may have another year of eligibility?
I'd be really surprised. I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. He might.
How I would have let that one slip through the cracks.
If he wants to come back, man. I'm not here. I'm not running you off. But I was under the impression that the next stop would likely be an attempt at not an attempt. He's going to play in the NFL. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but he's going to be a next level guy. And considering the history and the year he had
He does not have a COVID year because he started in 2021. He does not have a redshirt year. I mean, maybe if he wants to go to grad school somewhere, he probably
I don't know.
can be a grad transfer.
Well, I mean, at that point, you stay here, right?
Might as well if you do.
Yeah. I think I got my gut tells me he's going to go play in the National Football League. But we'll see. But I don't know. Will, if you know something I don't, I know almost everything, but
there are some things that,
some things fall through the cracks, man.
Occasionally.
I'm trying to be modest.
I mean, you almost knew that Juan Soto in 7 years has almost struck out as much as Ted Williams in 19.
Please tell everybody that real quick.
He's only 14 off. We mentioned that in the first segment that Juan Soto is maybe has struck out.
I was just guessing. It just would make sense.
Yeah, it was a fun gag. But Ted Williams in 19 years, almost 2 decades of playing pro ball,
That's right.
struck out 709 times. Juan Soto has played for 7 years. He has struck out 696. He is only 14 away.
And again, somebody today was starting to compare Juan Soto's abilities to Ted Williams, and I'm like,
13.
Just stop.
Math. Whatever.
Just stop it. Somebody who did play in the National Football League and did not strike out more or less than Ted Williams is our good friend Langston Moore, the former Gamecock D lineman, team captain, draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, husband, father, children's book author, barbecue aficionado, and so much more, joins us now on a Wednesday. We've had Bruise Day on a Monday. We got Langston on a Wednesday. Dogs and cats living together.
Bill Belichick is going to coach the University of North Carolina. Yeah. Nothing makes sense this week.
What's going on in our world? How are you, sir?
Man, it's the holiday season. It's that weird kind of like Bermuda Triangle after Thanksgiving, before Christmas, New Year. Like, what's today? What day is this? And, usually you don't know. I got to be getting close to like a holiday because the stores were getting. That's kind of how I judge everything. Like, is it the break in between Thanksgiving and Christmas because the stores aren't as crazy now? This old lady didn't run me over with a buggy, or no, I have to go in here and fight today. That means it must be getting close to another holiday. But no, man, the world, everything's upside down. But no, it's good. It's good. It's good chaos. It sounds like it's good chaos.
What do you know of a Mike Shula offense? He's going to be the new offensive coordinator if everything goes according to reports and what we've been hearing. He was in the NFL while you were in the NFL, and you know a lot about what he's done. But tell us more, even in a general sense, of what you know of what Mike can do.
I think his dad used to be a coach or something like that, and they got a nice little steak special sometimes. And when it's supper time on Sundays, Shula, the Shulas are a little bit older group of folks, so they probably, resign to supper, which is before 6 o'clock, as opposed to dinner, which is after 6 o'clock. But anyways, I just got to go back to my time with when he was with the Carolina Panthers. He had a guy by the name of Cam Newton, who was, again, man, like it's crazy to be a coach of somebody like Michael Jordan or Cam Newton or name somebody else, Anthony Davis with the Lakers or something like that, because like these folks are like supremely talented. But then you're like, okay, how do I make this work? But also, how do I not try to like run Cam Newton 100 times, because I could easily do that. And Cam is a sicko. He is a quarterback, but he likes to kind of mix it up like a running back. The more you feed him, the more he gets involved. I don't think that's kind of smart. But the whole point is they put the Shula offenses that I remember, super run heavy, super obviously with Steve Smith and some of the parts that they had, they would take some shots. But I think it really bodes well for kind of the pieces that South Carolina has. And I'm not opposed to it because, Mike was sitting there with LaNorris, and I have to think that, even though Dow and Sean Elliott and whoever was kind of in the mixture of the Mirepoix, what that offense was this year, Mike was with him day in and day out. And so I think that bodes well for the offense, the future. And we got a really special talent at quarterback. So having some continuity there, knowing the pieces there, helping with recruiting a little bit, probably something that Mike didn't really have the privilege of. He was just, whatever you slide on the trade to me, man, I'm gonna make something happen to it. But now, being more of the OC, I want the steak with the bone in. I don't want a wide receiver that's not 220 pounds. So he's gonna have to, pick a little bit of the groceries a little bit, but I really like some of the elements that I've seen, but also, he's been around and his family has been in the football business for a really, really long time. So I also don't expect him to just be pegged as one thing either. There should be a lot of football stuff in that brain. So let's see some of that creativity, which we have seen all year. So really, I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with it.
And when I look at the list of quarterbacks he's coached, whether either as an offense coordinator or a quarterbacks coach since 2000, I mean, it's a wide range, right? Going from Jay Fiedler to David Garrard's only Pro Bowl season to late stage Eli Manning and early stage Daniel Jones to Josh Allen when he was an analyst, and of course the evolution of Cam Newton being there as his quarterbacks coach and his OC. But a lot of different types of quarterbacks, but the Cam Newton one's interesting because it's a very similar type of quarterback that Lenora Sellers is. We do see some Newtonian aspects of Lenoris's game, but what kind of benefit is that for Coach Shula to coach somebody of that same mold and be able to build an offense around that, having experience doing that at the highest level?
Yeah, just a litany of guys that, you ran down. I mean, even as an NFL guy, like I said, a lot of times, depending upon your organization or where you're at, like whoever we send through this door, dog, you got to coach them up. And so, not to say Mike hasn't had any pull or weight and those things, but sometimes you're just going to have a David Garrard. Sometimes you're just going to have a Jay Feely at the back end of his career and everybody else is hurt. And again, he's had some successful outings with that. And so, again, I think about the David Garrard deal, very similar, kind of a mobile guy, but really to make his hay being mobile, really try to be more of a pocket passer, but would use mobility similar to Lenore. So like Lenore's will run off and will take off and do those things. But we all know like his gift is like being able to be 240 pounds, damn near a defensive end, shaking a defensive end, still having eyes down the field, and then still trying to put the ball on a rope to him. And he does that like versus everybody else who would just be running for their life. So my point is, it's going to take a guy who has a whole bunch of experience. The Josh Allen comp is really, really interesting to me because, everything they've been trying to do up there in Buffalo has been Charlotte Panthers a la the early 2000s. They just got it all right and didn't run their quarterback into the ground, besides being in a super, super tough conference up there and all those things, being might be able to be out there because Josh, again, you got to kind of save him from himself. My point is with Shula, all these things, there's a nice wealth of experience, a nice wealth of, because sometimes you can get a guy, man, I'm a run and shoot guy, and this, if you don't see it through my prism, like, nah, that's not really how we rock. You got to kind of understand what you got, and I think having him be here for a whole kind of calendar year through the spring, through all the ups and downs, the early part of the season, and again, we saw the ascension of Lenoris. I'm really pleased at what's going to be laying here in front of us, and obviously we have the bowl game for them again to kind of prepare and what it's going to look like for the 2025 season offense.
Speaking of that bowl game, we'll get Langston's take on that. He and I went and covered. I don't know if he remembers the story I told the other day about the Nebraska. I don't know if you. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, but we'll get into some more with Mr. Moore. Get into a few NFL thoughts as well on this Wednesday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, Langston Moore hanging out. It's the postgame show. Homeowners looking to make some improvements this time of year, especially as family and friends gather, and you say, man, I wish this kitchen was better equipped to cook for more people, or, man, we need that extra bathroom. Got a lot of folks in the house. Or maybe it's time to consolidate some high-interest debt this time of year. Whatever the needs, a home equity line of credit from Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union can be a great option for you and your family. They're local. They're not-for-profit. They've been doing this since the 1930s. They know the Midlands. They'll know you and your family, your neighborhood, your needs. And their home equity loans offer a great low rate, plus lower closing costs and application fees than the big banks. Plus, you can unlock your home's line of equity over a 10-year draw period, and that line of credit can be used throughout the process, so you don't have to borrow a big lump sum all at once. Apply today. Learn more at palmettocitizens.org or stop into any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Join my wife and me as members at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Talking Gamecock football, not necessarily off-season, but there is news as it certainly appears that Mike Shula will become the new offensive coordinator, replacing Dowell Loggins, who's moving on to be the head coach at Appalachian State. It's not, as I said earlier, it's not officially official as of yet, but I don't think it's because they're still interviewing people. I think it's more a matter of some logistics.
Formalities.
Yeah, this time of year. Just making sure that everything's ready to go. And maybe, as I said, maybe seeing if Dowell is still going to hang around and try to do 2 jobs in a month and go Christmas shopping.
Don't recommend.
So like Langston said, fighting the parking lots and that kind of thing. We shall see. Langston Moore does join us on the guest line from his home in Texas. We got a lot to get with you. This Illinois matchup, man, a Brett Bielema team. They run for better than, I think, $150 a game, Langston, but their quarterback has also been sacked 31 times, which would play into the hands of the Gamecock D-line. I'm sure that makes a guy like you, very intrigued. But what do you think of this matchup? One of only, I believe, 3, am I right, Elijah? 3 ranked versus ranked bowl games, not playoffs, obviously. So
might be right.
Yeah, pretty good one here, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, and you got to just, again, understand how Brett Bielema has made a living in the football world, being an offensive line guy, still trying to do his part to fit into the stature himself. But he's going to run the football and going to run it relentlessly and try to play a whole bunch of defense, with one of their wide receivers, one of their star wide receivers opting out. So I would think more emphasis on the run game. And when you think about bowl games, man, this is the thing if you wanted to be on a Lou Holtz bowl team, you kind of man, let me go ahead and get my forehead kind of back in the preseason form. Let me get my neck. It hadn't been this sore in a minute because it's just going to be fundamentals. Because the team that plays the most fundamentally sound in these bowl games are the ones that go. And I mean fundamentally as just doing the basics, blocking, tackling consistently. Now, our defense has been doing that, but Brent's going to utilize this time to come up with some real funky run schemes. He's going to go back to that Missouri tape, look at that inside zone. He's probably going to go back to a little bit of that Kentucky tape when they were trying to run a little bit, and then they forgot that, and they want to be a passing team, not a basketball passing team, but a football passing team. I don't know what's going on with that. But Brent is going to be really, really creative, and so for us, the other side of the river is if we do all of those things, play the fundamental football, put ourselves in a position, it's going to be the game plan we've been hoping for all year because besides Brent being an offensive line coach, he's giving up a whole bunch of sacks. Maybe that's more Altmaier, the quarterback. I don't know, but it's not my problem. We're the Gamecocks. We've got the Nagurski guy. Let's make sure we go out there and put the pressure on them, but we got to earn the right to do that by stopping the run, making sure that there's going to be a lot of creativity. They might take some shots on first down to try to get a score up, but please believe it's going to be run, get ready to stick your face in the fan. But once you get to that, the other side of it is there's a nice little backfield wide open for you if you can get back there and stop the run and get in a really predictable third down situation.
Now, Langston, I'm a glass half full guy. I've always kind of been an optimist, and people like to get really down whenever you get so close to the college football playoff that maybe there might not be as much investment, right? But I'm a firm believer that there's more to college football than just the silly, stupid exercise we do at the end of the season known as a college football playoff. There are still things that are worth playing then that's bowl games, especially for a program last year that missed out on a bowl game because they went 5-7, especially for a chance to do something that you've only done, 4 times in your program's history, and that's win 10 games. How up for a Citrus Bowl do you think this Gamecock team is, despite falling so painfully close to being in a college football playoff?
Well, that's going to be your relief. That's how you're going to get the valve. As a very smart football coach by the name of Steven Spurrier, he used to say, you want to win the first one, you want to win the last one. Now, again, you want to win a whole bunch of... As a guy who has been the most losingest football player ever, I think I lost you for a second. As a guy who has been on the losingest football guy ever, college, NFL, don't have to go down in history. Anytime you get a chance to win a football game, on top of doing what Carolina Gamecocks have in front of them, meaning winning double-digit games, we had the greatest turnaround in South Carolina history. We only won 8 games. Next year, we only won 9 games. My whole point is it's rarefied air. It's cool to look at it in hindsight. Oh, man, they ran off 10. That's why, those folks up the road, when they're doing double digit, however we want to say it's the cupcake league or whatever, to do it is really hard. I've been playing football for a long I'm not playing football now. Let me stop that. I played football for a really, really long time. I never got the double digit wins. That's why guys like who have won the Connor Shaws of the world, the Preston Thorns of the world, the guys who have just have done that and done it repeatedly, like, that's what you go play for. And if you need anybody, any inspiration, let me tell you, because these are the things you think about. These are the things you think about when you're old, because, again, even if you get to the NFL, we know it stands for not for long, because nobody really going to care about you playing on the Detroit Lions team or a Panthers team. This stuff right here is the things, and this is the message. This is where coaches got to really earn their keep, because it's, I got it, coach. Yeah, this is no, this is where I don't want to see that face at the end of this game in Orlando. Oh, we had a chance and all good. No, let's end it on happy tears. Let's go out there and do it, because as sure as your mama tell you, do this, save some money, brush your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth, you're going to get cavities. And as soon as that cavity comes, she might take you to the dentist, but it's the same thing with these players. Reiterate it, hammer it home as much as you can. I don't care that we missed out on the playoffs. If anything, use that as motivation to go out there and put the hammer, put the whooping on these boys, whatever little jargon I can say on here without getting bleeped out. Make sure you use that as motivation, because, again, these are the things you're thinking about when you get to be in grade 43, sitting on your rocking chair, and you're like, oh, I used to play with that guy. He's a coach now. Mike Bo, like nobody. So do it for yourself and do it for your teammates, because your family might not care, your mama might not care, but it's vitally important, and it goes down in the annuals of these things, and that's something you can really look back and be proud of.
How big a deal is it that Dylan Stewart is officially back, even if it's a one-year kind of thing in today's modern world? How big a deal is it?
It's big, because, I would think, I guess 16 Fields, I saw some Midas commercials and different things, and my boy's got a shoe. He got a Hey Dude shootout. So, maybe we feel – but that's the new MO in recruiting across the world is, keeping the players that you have, re-solidifying, even all the way down to the 2 deep, man, which is crazy, because, again, we understand you're only as good as your 2nd deep, but getting the guys like Lenoris to stay on the team, getting the guys like Dylan Stewart to stay on the team, getting the guys like Mazio Bennett. Like, think about, like, there's somebody out there that's like, you know what, everybody's going to zig and go towards that Dylan Stewart guy. Maybe I'm a zag and try to get their budding wide, and that's the game now. And I don't envy these guys at all, because it's I do it every day. Jay, hopefully you're doing it every day. Hopefully you ain't got that Dallas Cowboy. You got to date. You got to always be, once you think you got it really solidified, and then that's when people start looking around, especially with these things called the DMs and all that. So I think it was vitally important to do that. And, I know a lot of folks are like, why are we putting that out there? But maybe it's something we use as recruiting. Maybe, again, that is something we have to use as recruiting, as kind of like, this is what we do here at the University of South Carolina. We take care of you. We're going to develop you. We're going to win some football games, but also here, did I not say we're going to take care of you? And so, again, that's a great little deal for us to use.
You mentioned sliding in the DMs. What type of DM would it take to get you to have transferred? It sounds like you might have thought through this a little bit.
Let me tell you something. I just had, they had it back in the day where, damn, it got me sounding old, man. So you only had to put like 6 and then the 4 digits of your number, and then you can call anybody on campus. And it was funny at one point because, guys would start like crank calling guys, hey, this is Lou Holtz, you didn't come to practice. Like, so, but then, that was cool when certain young ladies would find out your number and just call and leave kind of messages, some braver than others. Let me tell you something. I've always touted, and I've been proud of this. I don't know if my parents would be proud of this, but I am the epitome of a free agent. I am the epitome of for hire. You give me enough money, I'll wear your hat too. You give me enough whatever, I'll wear your little logo too, to a degree. Now I might not put on purple pants or nothing like that, but I did play for the Cincinnati Bengals. They made me put on orange striped pants. So again, I will be exploited. I am a mercenary.
I respect the hell out of that. We are birds of a feather, my friend.
He's our good friend Langston Moore. We'll get into a few NFL thoughts with him as well on this Wednesday edition of the Postgame Show. 13 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you, joined on the guest line by our good friend Langston Moore. Athletesandartists.net is the website to learn all about the Just a Chicken series of books. Again, especially this time of year, really all year long, reading is crucial to development, or just, for fun if you're like a grown-up. But
keeps the brain sharp.
For that young Gamecock reader in your life, Just a Chicken Little. Used was a rooster. You can find out all about it, where you can get them, and the swag. Yeah, I was wearing my Just a Chicken Born Here, Raised Here shirt for workout the other day, and I wear it a lot, actually, but I had it on the other day, and I was like, hey, look at me. You can get all this.
I'm glad to hear you're wearing it, first of all, but, I mean, working out, Jay, come on. I want to see you wear that tuxedo, at halls or something. I'm not asking for the tuxedo shirt treatment, but, put a sport coat over that thing, and you can take it anywhere.
I will. I now that you've asked me to do that, I will do that. And yes, I'm not really, workout.
If those folks at Hall's Chop House give you any blip about that's a nice word, blip about dress code, Jay, just send them my way. I think I know that Tommy dude. We could talk to them.
I'll just put, you know what I'll do? I'll put on the T-shirt. I'll just put a tie, over the T-shirt. That'll look good.
I knew you were a professional.
Yeah. That'll look good. Like Charlie
Somewhere.
Sheen says in Major League, I look like a banker in this. I love that line. Were you and I working together in 2011? I can't remember what football season did you start?
I just missed you. So 2012.
2012. Okay, so you did not. You were not a part of that morning, and I don't think. I guess that means TC was there, Terry Cousin. But you were not there that morning when I had to get someone from the custodial staff at Citrus Bowl Stadium, whatever it was called then. Now it's Camping World Stadium, to come and clean the bat guano from the Gamecock radio booth. I was the first person that got there ahead of the show that day, and I'm like, y'all did know there was a bowl game, right? Because I don't know if they did, man. I'm telling you right now, I don't know if they knew there was a game that day or not. But
Jay, my illustrious football career. No, that sounds very on point for that stadium, that place, because Nashawn guarded as well. We both had the privilege of playing for the UFL Tuskers, which is located down there in Orlando, Florida, one of the better locations. But that's where we would practice and play every day. And to say that it was a glorified, probably high school stadium, no disrespect to all the money, or somebody spent some money. I don't know if they spent it on that stadium. But like you said, they put a nice little turf field in there and all that stuff. But you've probably been in some better high school stadiums around the state of South Carolina. But that sounds very, very much on point for my experience when I was with a professional team, using that as our practice facilities every day. So I think they had us on the other side of the wing that didn't have the bats in our locker room.
That place, if they would put a little bit more, Orlando's ready to host like national titles. It's just not big enough, I guess. But they need some boxes and stuff.
Jay, you know what it is? It's Orlando, man, baby. Where else you gonna come, baby? You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Until it gets so bad, and it feels like, I want to name certain cities, like maybe I don't know. let me not get myself in trouble with a tourism board or something. But they got you by location, and when you get there, it's like, okay, it's cool, but maybe if they just did that or cleaned up the trash a little bit over here, this place would be really great. And that's what I feel like. That stadium, we got you by location. Orlando, you're inside the total a little bit. Come on, but I think also too they bought it really, really a long time ago when it was really, really cheap, and everything around there is really, really expensive. And they're probably like, we're not moving, so figure out getting us a new stadium with some new budgets, or we'll just keep patching this thing up and getting it down the road to the next bowl.
Well, that's what they're going to do. But that was it's a scene down there. I'll say that much. Before we get you out of here, a couple things going on around the NFL. Your Bengals win the other night. I don't think it's going to matter anymore. And of course, there was the extracurricular activity at Joe Burrow's house while he was down in Texas.
Oh my God.
Which is just, I don't know what to say about all that right now. But this is shaping up to be a very interesting AFC because the Chiefs keep winning, but barely. Does that matter?
No, and I think they're getting excited and falling into kind of they like the storyline, but also too, they've had opportunities in the past where this storyline was present, and then they still went on last year to win the Super Bowl with one of their worst offensive tackles, offensive line, no wide receivers, all these different things. As long as they got 15 and he's pretty much healthy, I'm not betting against those guys. I think I said that 2 seasons ago, and I'm going to hold true to that until somebody else proves me, and they're probably going to have to prove me otherwise twice. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen twice. But, again, football is a wild game. They can catch you on any Sunday. But between Andy Reid and 15 and the rest of that supporting cast, it feels like they're going to go as far as those guys take them.
I mean, they have to stop getting away with it at some point, right? After every Chiefs game I watch, I go away with it thinking they got away with it again. Like, at some point, they have to have some type of wake-up call to fix something around there because they seemingly just keep getting away with it.
Yeah, it's like the law of averages is going to get you at some point. But,
it has to.
Such a senior-laden staff, just all of the distractions, trust me, lesser teams have used a lot less excuses, local excuses, you know what I'm saying, not Taylor Swift level type excuses where I'm talking about, oh, man, this girl at this club and this, there's a beef in the locker room between these two guys and she just takes the tickets at the door. But there's a whole different deal. So my point is my hat's off to them, and I don't expect, until you knock the king off, the king stay the king. And so in the words of the illustrious Wire, until somebody comes for that head and takes the king out of here, I don't see it happening. And again, that's really going to be the playoff time because they have the opportunity to maybe hurdle, have a couple hiccups, but this team seems like mentally they have it all together there.
Before we get you out of here, just kind of coming back around to it. Look, Shane Beamer, SEC Coach of the Year by two different organizations. Kyle Kennard wins the Nagurski Award, Best Defensive Player in the country. Lenoris, third-team All-Conference quarterback, is voted by the coaches, and that's behind two guys that are going to be leaving next year. There's a lot to like about what's happening around Shane Beamer these days.
Absolutely, and if there's anything that I'm excited about, and I'm happy for all of those guys. It's award season. They all deserve their kudos. But I'm excited about the momentum because, being on the radio staff and seeing kind of what we did during our 5 run and using that kind of as the book into those years, those are the years we had those double-digit years, double-digit wins, historic wins. If this playoff committee stuff was going on, that 11-1 year where we beat Nebraska, very, very close to kind of sneaking in some different things. But my point is, let's utilize that momentum. And I think Shane is really going to hunker down and really take this and use this as a fulcrum to really propel us. Again, you can't, forecast out too far these days and times because of NIL and all this stuff. But hopefully this will be something that propels us, health included, everybody staying healthy. Really excited about the momentum, and let's really double down on that and take us into another stratosphere to put us in another level. Because, again, it's getting narrower and narrower at the top. Let's go ahead and kind of cement ourselves on this mountaintop and kind of maneuver how we need to.
Appreciate you as always. We'll do it again soon.
Absolutely, man. Y'all be good.
That's our good friend Langston Moore. This is the Postgame Show. Getting a little bit older. You got a lot going on this time of year, guys, and you're just feeling kind of like, why? This didn't used to happen, and I'm not doing anything different every day. Listen, as we get older, this is going to be a part of the process. It does not change or go away on its own, all right? Instead, do yourself a favor. Do your family a favor, all right? Go see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. They've been doing this for years. They get amazing results because they know how to take care of men. There are a lot of things that work in conjunction with one another that can start to weigh you down just a little bit. And when you get the one-on-one consultation, Dan and his crew get to know you. There is no one-size-fits-all. There is no magic pill. These are medical professionals that are dedicated to making you feel like you want to, and your family's going to love it too. Whatever the needs are, call them up. See for yourself. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic. Welcome back into the Postgame Show, hour number 2, coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Y'all excuse me, I'm going to keep talking, but I may fade out. My mic stand is like, even though it's tight, if you're watching me, I don't know
You're
what's
really
going on.
struggling here.
Well, it keeps falling. I don't know why it's falling. It keeps coming down, and I try to hold it up, and it just, I'm not doing anything to it. Why is that happening?
Other than breaking it. That happened to anybody else today. Maybe you broke it.
But I haven't done anything. I mean, I'm trying to just get it to where I can keep it here, and I'm comfortable. It keeps moving. And look, I mean, I can't type.
Is your breath bad? Is it avoiding your face actively?
I don't know. I did brush my teeth.
Maybe it's saying something to you.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm speculating here.
Anyway.
What do we do in this business?
These are first world radio problems, so I'm trying to.
You have the haunted microphone. Congratulations, Jay Phillips.
Gunner broke it. I'm just going to blame Gunner.
He does sit in that chair, and he does use that microphone.
Yep.
So, I mean, it really isn't out of the realm of possibility.
No. And the fact that he wasn't here today doesn't change my mind.
No. So, it doesn't change your mind the fact that you've used this microphone twice since he last used it.
That's fair. It's not my fault. I don't like taking responsibility for things.
It's easier to just blame.
Yeah, somebody.
blame
It's definitely someone else. It's not me. It's not me. There's no way it's me.
It can't be.
Like that Martin Short character from back in SNL. It's not me, it's him. But anyway, lots to get to here in the second hour. Thanks, as always, to our good friend Langston Moore for joining us. All right, I'm just getting this. Is this the coaches' vote in the last hour? Clark Lee has been named the SEC Coach of the Year.
Yes.
By the coaches.
That is the coaches. That is the official SEC Coach of the Year.
I mean, okay. I don't want to haggle too much. I mean, so the AP and USA Today have voted Shane Beamer Southeastern Conference Coach of the Year. But the coaches themselves, and I guess you can't vote. I mean, Shane would never vote for himself anyway. Shane could be undefeated right now, and he'll vote for some. I mean, even if he could vote for himself, he wouldn't.
Right.
But I don't think you don't think you can. Okay.
They went 6-6.
Yeah, and they were supposed to not. I mean,
they didn't suck, and I understand is making Vanderbilt not suck is probably easier said than done, but I don't think.
Well, I remember you and I going over what Vandy needed to do to be bowl eligible a couple of times before the season started. We did a rundown of every team, and especially every Gamecock opponent.
And part of that was assuming they at least get the wins over Alcorn State, Georgia State, and I think they played Tennessee State or some OVC
somebody
school.
like that.
But they did lose the game to Georgia State.
They lost to Georgia State.
Which is still really funny.
Yeah.
They lost to Georgia State.
But they beat Alabama. That helped.
Yeah,
they won at Auburn. They won at Kentucky.
They kept Alabama out of the college football playoff. They
did.
Attaboy, Clark Lee.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know what? Maybe, actually. Okay, now that I think we've gotten to the bottom of this. All right, I'm cool with it now. Sorry, Shane. I think you're a very deserving candidate, but I think I'm really cool with it now that I think we've talked ourselves into why Clark Lee kept Alabama from getting to the college football playoff, and this is something that the school needs to do, or that the conference needs to do to reward them for it. So, way to go.
Yeah, I saw a guy today, by the way, just to juggle a few different storylines that are happening. I saw a guy today on Twitter haggling with Andy Staples about Alabama and how Alabama would be favored by 15 points over SMU, and how that fact alone, well, it's not a fact, but
yeah, there's no confirmation.
Yeah, well, that alone is why Alabama should be in the playoff ahead of SMU. And some people did hit back, like, yeah, buddy, they were favored by whatever against Vanderbilt.
They were favored by like 24 points.
Yeah.
And they lost.
And they were favored by whatever against
14.
Oklahoma. Yeah. It's like, okay, I get it. And I told you this morning, yours truly has attempted at times to use that logic when it comes to Georgia last season. And how, like, Georgia was number one all year long. loses by 3 on a neutral field, and suddenly they're 6th. And it's like they'd be favored to beat all these teams ahead of them. And yet somehow the transitive property of sport won out. But the more I've thought about it, and I think I said this yesterday, especially with Alabama, like Alabama, you lost to Vanderbilt. It's like what I've said to Miami. Like for everybody that's mad at Clemson, I'm like, hey, Clemson isn't the one that lost to Syracuse. Like Miami, your fate was in your hands, and the
entire time,
the final hurdle you had to clear, Miami football, was beating Syracuse in football. That's it. That's all you had to do. I don't care how good Syracuse was, but I'll say the same thing to Alabama. Like you can't, and you were number 1 in the country at the time, and you went to Nashville and you lost. Don't care how. Don't care why.
You lost.
You lost. And you hadn't lost to Vandy since Ronald Reagan was president. I think it was his first term.
Oh, and you want to know how good Alabama is with being a 3-score favorite? They were also 3+ score favorites against South Carolina.
Yeah.
And it took
a
failed 2-point conversion away from that becoming an overtime game.
But Kyle Kennard is the defensive player of the year in the coaches' vote. And Lenoris Sellers has been named SEC Freshman of the Year. Again, Lenoris yesterday was 3rd team all-conference quarterback behind Jackson Dart, 1st team, Quinn Ewers, 2nd team. And Kennard was on the 1st team. And where was Emin Wari? 2nd team?
I thought he was 1st.
Was he 1st team as well?
I believe so.
Okay.
Let me double check that.
Well, no, that's fine.
No, that's too late. We're getting the crack staff on
Kroger,
it.
I know Kai Kroger was.
Hey, intern, get on it. Hey, look it up.
Yeah.
Look it up. The intern's
Kroger was
me, by the
1st team
way.
punter.
It's me. I've hired myself.
Yeah, we don't have any interns. That's
we don't.
unfortunate. But again, Shane's gotten a bunch of Coach of the Year awards. But you're right. Now that we've thought about it, we'll just justify it by saying coaches decided that Clark Lee beat Alabama.
Coaches decided this is the proper thank you for keeping them out of the college football.
And I'm fine. Look, I'm fine with this. Clark Lee is doing a good job. We even just mentioned this a few minutes ago when you think about this.
As good as one can do.
The schedule next year. What can Clark Lee do? To build upon this. Is it as simple? And I'm not really kidding. Is it as simple as going and finding the next Diego Pavia? Like I said, they don't grow on trees, but they're not complete rarities either. Can you go find somebody else? Look, I'm watching, and I forget the kid's name, so forgive me, Elijah. You might know it. Tulane's quarterback is going to go replace Murphy at Duke. So he's going from really good school to really good school, but he's stepping up into the Power 4.
Yep.
Right? Is there somebody like that Vandy's looking at? Like, Vandy should be able, not every year, but like Northwestern is no longer thought of as just a complete doormat of the Big Ten. And they're building a nice new ballpark. Stanford has had its run. I'd like to see Stanford get good again. They've had their moments, and we'll see now that Andrew Luck is running Stanford football, and he is. Mm-hmm. Like, what will that do for them? I don't know. We're seeing Duke be better at football. Coach Cutcliffe laid a nice foundation, and we've seen Elko and now Manny Diaz,
former MTSU great.
Yeah, get some things done. Tulane is getting better. Places where people go primarily for an education. The University of Miami, which is in that same realm. It can happen for you, Vanderbilt, if you put in the effort. What does this year do?
Yeah.
And go win your bowl game.
Hey, Rhodes Scholar Michael Irvin was great, helping push Miami to the next level.
I don't know about that, but anyway. So what did they? I don't know what they did. All right, what'd you find out? Was
Nick Emin Wari his 1st team?
Okay, I thought. Sorry, I couldn't remember. I'm sorry. There's too much going on these days. But once again, if you have not yet heard, not official yet, but the sources we've spoken with close to the program, and I know our good friend Chris Clark is reporting it as well, amongst others, Mike Shula will become the new offensive coordinator at the University of South Carolina, replacing Dow Loggins. Mike served as an analyst last year. He's been an OC in the NFL for many, many years. Obviously, he was the head coach at his alma mater, the University of Alabama. We know what kind of lineage he has, just like Shane has great coaching lineage, and they grew up in the business. We had a guy call earlier and say he's just worried about Mike getting too conservative in certain situations or doing too much with Lenoris. There will always be a tendency in college football. Heck, look at the NFL. I mean, I'm not going to say the Panthers overused Cam Newton. Cam is just Cam. And Cam always believed he was going to be better than you. And ultimately, one of the things I said about Cam is that Cam was just broken. And you couldn't really fix him anymore. He's like a really awesome car, but there's no parts left to fix it.
He was a great car with the offensive line being a teenage boy who wanted to drive it off of a cliff at any chance he could. And that's why insurance rates are up so high for teenage boys. I know this because I was one somewhat recently, and my mom complained about it.
And I think there are ways to manage this. But again, go get another quality tailback to take the pressure off in terms of the run game. Is there the next easy button? Does that become Mazio next year? Probably.
Could.
But in terms of what Josh Simon offered this year, again, you like Smith, you like Hunt.
I'd like a complimentary pass catching tight end would be nice. I mean, look, if you want to look at Mike Shula's resume as a play caller and what his best offense was, it was a quarterback like Cam Newton with his best weapon being Greg Olsen at tight end.
Right. So there's a blueprint there. And to one of the points that the caller made, which I think was valid, was Mike settling into a certain groove and then having it not work as well as necessary. We have evidence to prove that Shane Beamer will not take control per se, but will absolutely let his coordinators know. And he's done it. He did it with Marcus Satterfield, and it paid dividends. He did it with Clayton White, and it paid dividends. You can't keep doing the basic thing here. I need you to change things up. And when you think about what they did, with Satterfield, and Terry and I joked about it. I've said before, the Denny's menu. Listen, nobody's coming to Denny's for the salmon and the T-bone. I want pancakes, I want bacon, I want eggs, and I want lots of it. And then they went out and beat Tennessee and Clemson. With Clayton, it was like, hey, some of the scheme here is just we're getting run on to death, and we can't do this anymore. And then you really shored things up. You went on a nice run, and you didn't, even though Clemson beat you after you had won, 3 in a row?
You didn't give up an offensive touchdown.
Give up an offensive touchdown. It was a really silly offensive mistake that allowed Clemson to score early. And you just never really recovered from that, but you did well. And it's because the head coach said, I don't like this. He's going to give them the control until something's not going right. So if I'm a Gamecock fan, I get encouraged by that not only is he willing to do it and challenge them, but you've seen it pay dividends. That's what I would say. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with Mike Shula. But I like the continuity part. And I think to everybody involved, Elijah, that's the main component of this decision.
Yeah, is the continuity. And to be able to just establish a little bit of rhythm going into next year, too. I mean, look, it would have been silly to kind of have, when you think about it, it would kind of be silly to have these next, how many practices you get, 10 practices, I think, for bowls, being coached by somebody who's going to call the plays, who won't call the plays for you next year, right? And you have not just the continuity in scheme, but a continuity in the relationship, right? Just because we've heard all season long. Shane would mention it in pressers. Dowell mentioned it in pressers. Lenoris has mentioned it in pressers, that there was a good communication consistently between Lenoris, Dowell, Mike Shula. Mike Shula played a very, very real hand in the development of Lenoris Sellers. And I think maybe not disrupting that is a really important thing if you are to lose your offensive coordinator.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. We'll get into that for you. What's going on up the road at the other Carolina right now? A lot of folks weighing in on whether or not Bill Belichick will be the coach.
Something totally expected.
An interesting tweet from my buddy Andrew Carter that's not his but a colleague's, but he says he feels the same way. I want to read it to you all on the other side, see what you think of this. You're listening to the Postgame Show. You know, way too often guys simply will not go to the doctor when they're not feeling right. You could have a whole bunch of things that are going wrong, and you don't know why, but you're like, I don't want to talk about that, especially if it might be certain aspects of your life, right? Well, listen, don't be that guy. Don't try to tough it out, and don't wait for it to go away. That's just not what's going to make you better. Get to feeling better after you see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. They are experts in healthcare for men. They're dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. These are true medical professionals with years and years of experience ready to help you out. Call them up, set up that consultation, and start to feel better. Again, do it for you, do it for your significant other, do it for your family, do it for the long term. 803-875-MENS. That's the phone number. And check them out online. Learn a whole lot more about what they do. The Men's Clinic, SC.com. Twenty minutes after 4 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Do want to remind you the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest is still going on. We're going to take it through the Citrus Bowl. You could be a $1,200 winner. Go to 1075thegame.com and register to win the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest.
Can't win if you don't register.
You cannot. That is an absolute fact. Again, I am full of facts today, and that is another one of them. So is Elijah.
This is a news source. We are a news source.
I'll give you another fact coming up in like 12-ish minutes or so. Inside of 15 minutes, our good friend Brad Muller, the voice of Carolina women's basketball, will join us. He got to see the Jeremiah Donati Classic the other night.
He did. Well, I don't know how well he got to see it. I don't know if you saw the picture.
I did.
Of his
he sent it to me.
Broadcast spot.
He did.
You got a view of a lot of backsides.
Yeah, there were people standing in front of. Why? Well, we'll talk to Brad about it. I want to step away from Gamecock football to discuss what's happening up in Chapel Hill. Andrew Carter writes for the Raleigh News and Observer, as does his colleague Luke DeCook. And Andrew said this today: haven't written my thoughts on UNC's potential hiring of Bill Belichick, but if I did, they'd look a lot like what Luke wrote here. And Luke had sent this out. So we'll see what y'all think. Imagine the kind of privileged bubble you'd have to live in to be able to convince yourself that after firing a genial 73-year-old coach who seemed to be losing his grasp on the rapidly changing world of college football, a surly 72-year-old with little or no grasp on college football is the right guy to replace him. Why not dig up Newt Rockney's corpse and drag it around like Weekend at Bernie's? This is such a bad idea that even if it were to happen and somehow work out, it would still be an objectively bad idea, even with 20/20 hindsight. Even if no one else wants the job, whether for football reasons or having to submit TPS reports to 8 different bosses, this is an absurd place to land. That's Luke DeCook of the News and Observer in the Triangle. I might not go that far, and part of a guy like Luke's job is to certainly push buttons a little bit harder than most of us do, even when we're in the opinion business. I don't know how you feel, Elijah. We haven't talked a lot about this week because we've been paying attention to the local stuff, but I got to be honest. Like, on the one hand, I totally get it, but I can be a 50-50 guy here and go on the other. I don't get this one at all. I mean, look, he seems to want the job, but he's apparently also put out some kind of thing that says, like, you got to do all of this stuff. And I'm not going to get into all the details. Andy Staples was going over some of it today on his show. I don't know. Where do you, I mean, I'm not going to say convince me one way or another, but if you want to play devil's advocate on the behalf of North Carolina's athletics brass, but first off, where do you land on this one as we speak?
Okay, it's the dumbest thing I've heard this coaching cycle. Not going to hold back. I think this is incredibly and laughably stupid by the University of North Carolina. If I told you, Jay Phillips, that when they fired Mac Brown, they're going to hire somebody with absolutely zero college football coaching experience, you'd kind of be really puzzled by that, right? But you'd say, Elijah, well, maybe this is somebody with a fresh look at football, somebody a lot younger because you just fired a 73-year-old head coach because he is kind of losing his grasp on college football, and it is kind of passing him by a little bit. Just see how he's managed the talent he's been able to bring in the last 3 or 4 years. So, okay, well, maybe it's some, hotshot 35-year-old from the NFL or something like that. Nope. You're getting younger just by a year, right?
Yeah.
This guy's also not coached college football a day in his life.
Right.
Ever.
Right. Ever. You
would say that's a really stupid hire for a school that's in the ACC that has the resources they do and that should be able to compete for an ACC title on a year-in, year-out basis. You would say that's really, really dumb. And the fact that his name is Bill Belichick, I think, has really glossed over that. That's created like a nice, like, glossy film in front of North Carolina to say, hey, look, this guy's got the resume. He's won 6 Super Bowls. I hate to break it to the University of North Carolina. You're not eligible to win a Super Bowl. Like, it seems like the most lazy hire imaginable. And it's not just because no one wants the job, because Matt Campbell turned down an interview, and then
he didn't
John
want to talk
just
to him.
turned down the job itself.
Right.
He did speak with North Carolina. He just turned the job down itself. You couldn't have even imagined enough to maybe call Charles Huff, who just won the Sun Belt with Marshall, and has won some big games at Marshall. Mind you, they did go into Notre Dame and win a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So he's won some really big games. He is a rising star in the college football coaching ranks. But you're going to let Southern Miss take that and not even give him a call or anything like that. You want to call the guy who's never coached college football, the one who is definitely, not saying you have to be incredibly charismatic to coach in college football, but as you know, that there's more stuff asked of you and required of you outside of watching film and coaching football that being a college football head coach requires. And the guy who didn't like to stand there and ask and answer questions about a previous game and would mumble over on Cincinnati is going to have to do a coach's radio show. You think he's going to like doing that?
Well, you hit the point that I think is maybe the biggest one, and that is such a gigantic part of the job is what you do publicly.
You're part politician in this job.
If not mostly.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that I firmly believe, to use the example of Mac Brown, why Mac is until now, and we'll see what Sark does, but Mac played for 2 titles and won one, has been the most successful Texas coach of a couple of generations. It's because he was able to block the noise and at the same time pull factions together.
He knew how to deal with the suits.
That's what he does. I look, Will Muschamp, and y'all follow with my logic, you'll see where I'm going with this. Will Muschamp, is a really smart person, and he obviously knows a ton about football. But I've sort of joked before that Will's answer to getting better at football was to watch a lot of film. And if that didn't work, that you watched more film. That's what Bill Belichick is. And that's fine at certain points. But to try and go sell that Tar Heel fan base, that alumni base, that wine and cheese crowd, as they like to say up there, at least some of them, on football, when he doesn't want to be part of that world, it's just a really big ask. The recruiting part, look, you can go hire a staff full of recruiters, and he can be the closer. And I'm sure he's a more gregarious person, just like Will was. Will's outward appearance was a little too porcupine-ish from time to time, but the truth is, like, Will Muschamp is a pretty funny guy, and you can get along with him. But he's to him, I've got a job to do, and that job is to watch film, make my team better. And he's not wrong. But, there are so many other aspects to this. I'm with a lot of folks right now. Again, on the one hand, yes, you would quite literally be getting a top fiver all time, right? I'm not going to say best because I don't know who's best. You and I mentioned Bill Walsh this morning. Don Shula actually has the record. Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Chuck
Those are
Noll,
semantics.
Whatever. But you're getting an all-timer. There's no doubt. But is it really the best thing for you? And who's in waiting, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just seems, and if it's going to happen, shouldn't it have already happened? Like, it shouldn't take this long. What are you looking for? What's not happening yet? And again, I'm hearing that the word is Belichick wants to have it in stone somewhere of what the school is going to do to fully support. And I think that's what a lot of people run into up there. Mm-hmm. There's just a line that school has never seemingly wanted to cross.
Never been willing. Because
right. That's what I'm saying.
Because I think they are, with so much money that you have to spend, I think they are so.
Again, where we are.
I get.
Look, you're from a border state. We're in a border state. We all follow football. And those of you who know college football know how many great players come from that state. I've said before, think of the population of that state and the amount of talent it produces. If they ever actually cared about football, they could be just as good as Georgia.
Dangerous.
But they don't. And I don't think they're going to, just because 72-year-old Bill Belichick might become their coach. Meanwhile, Dawn Staley's amongst the best at what she does. She's got a lot of titles, and she knows how to go get players and engage the community. And so does Brad Muller, and he'll join us on the other side.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. Starting with an accident that's got the left lane completely blocked on I-26 westbound just after Sunset Boulevard near exit 110. Again, the left lane is blocked, so traffic is moving very slowly over on 26. We have an accident on Decker Boulevard at Brookfield Road, Irmo Drive at North Lake Drive, Parkland Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Road, one on St. Andrews Road at Piney Grove Road, and lastly, one on US 601 near Highway 262 in Leesburg Road.
Talking a lot of football on today's program. Get back into that for you as the coaches continue to vote across the Southeastern Conference and more on the bowl matchups around the SEC. But right now, let's spend some time talking a little Carolina women's basketball. Now the number 3 team in the country, 9-1 on the year, just off a victory in the Jeremiah Donati Classic in Fort Worth. All right, that's my nickname for it, but that's what it was, since he's the AD there and about to be the AD here. To talk about that and a whole lot more, we welcome back onto the show our good friend Brad Muller. Happy holidays, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Back at you.
All right, so let's get the story out here first. This was not at TCU's home gym, but it was in Fort Worth. And for whatever reason, you were not courtside for your broadcast position on Sunday. Tell us more about how you called a game with people in front of you.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And actually, unfortunately, this is becoming more common, especially when we play at neutral sites, which we've played at a ton of neutral sites where, they have maybe just one little table, press table down low for TV, and they move radio up to the upper deck. And sometimes it's not bad. I mean, they've done that at the Final Four in years past. You know, sometimes you're at least in the middle, and you have kind of a separate perch where you're not
obstructed.
Yeah, that's the better word. You know, even up at Clemson this year, a couple years ago, they moved us to the upper deck, and sometimes you're partially obstructed up there. But this where we were was at the Dickies Arena there in Fort Worth. We were the upper deck in the corner, which made it good, but basically on the same level. Like I was on the aisle, so whenever somebody stood up in front of me, they were blocking my view, and anytime people were going up and down the stairs to their seats, which was the whole game, getting food or going to the bathroom or whatever, they were blocking my view of the game. So basically most of the game I would hop up and stand I was basically on a little bar stool kind of where they had it set up. So I was stood up on the bar stool so I could see over people. And, there's a lot of people that are lost looking for their seats, and they're turning around. And at one point there was a group of people that were just standing there in front of me for, it felt like 10 minutes. It was probably 60 seconds, but I was standing on top of the bar stool, which wasn't very stable, obviously. And so I just crumpled up a ball of paper, and I may or may not have thrown it at them to get them out of the way. And it's not their fault, because technically I shouldn't be there, but this is my big pet peeve when arenas and administrators decide, I'll just stick radio anywhere, they're fine. They don't need to see the game. So anyway,
yeah,
I can say I've been doing basketball college broadcast for now 32 years at 2 different schools, and this was the absolute worst.
Well,
I've been at D2 schools where you're literally sitting with fans, but but they're not obstructing your view.
Right.
This was the worst. Yes.
Well, you got a 33-point win out of it, and it might not have been that close. And this was a top 10 matchup, at least on paper, in mid-December. But I'll be careful how I ask you this, but do you feel like this team got a proverbial wake-up call out in L.A.? Was that just a bad day at the office? Is this still about how much talent Carolina has? Where do you see this ball club after what happened to UCLA?
Well, they've definitely gotten better since UCLA. Now, UCLA that day was the best team on the floor, and they might be, they are definitely one of the best teams in the country. I think I said that before the season started, that game in Los Angeles was going to be probably the most dangerous one of the non-conference schedule. They've got UCLA has plenty of size and all that, and maybe if South Carolina played a little better, I don't know if it would have been closer. UCLA was on top of its game. They're big, they're deep. But yes, there was areas that South Carolina needed to get better. One of them was defensively, and the last few games, the games they had over Thanksgiving in Florida and carrying over to that game in Fort Worth against TCU, yes, they were a lot better defensively in terms of defending the post. TCU had a 6'7" girl that was averaging about 20 points a game, and she did nothing. I think she scored 6 or 8 points. She was also averaging 11 rebounds. She may have gotten 4. And the post players combined did a terrific job defensively. The on-ball defense for the guards was good because they were denying entry passes to the big 6'7" girl for TCU. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is that the last 3 or 4 games, the defense has been more what you would expect and more what coach wants. And then, it also helps when some of your guards start knocking down shots.
Yeah.
But there's still obviously tons of areas they can get improvement on the offensive side of the ball. As good as the posts were in defending, there still hasn't emerged that dominant post. Again, the last 10 years, South Carolina has always had some kind of all-conference post, whether it was Asia or Elena or Aaliyah or Camilla. There was always that, like we like to talk about, the easy button. There hasn't been that easy button in terms of scoring, on the low post so far this year. But others are starting to play better. Ashlyn Watkins is starting to make her presence felt a little bit. Sanaya Fagan at times has been better. You just don't know who that, I don't know if there is that automatic double-double like we've been spoiled to have for the last 10 years. But if you're looking for an area that, where can they still get better, that would be the answer to me, would be in the posts offensively while maintaining what they're doing defensively, because it's just been outstanding.
I do really enjoy being able to observe Dawn and Milasia's dynamic. So in the Duke game, right? She's 0 for 6 at this point. We're in the waning seconds of the third quarter, and Milasia's got the ball, and it looks like they're about to kickstart the offense. Ashlyn runs up to set a screen, and Dawn is yelling, adamant for Ashlyn to get out of the way, and let Milasia go one-on-one. They get the clock down to 8 or 9 seconds, and Milasia takes this poor girl off the dribble, gets an easy bucket at the buzzer, and scores. And then, even though she didn't play her best game in that one, that's one thing I asked Dawn was how important is it to you to get Milasia going? Because it definitely looked like in that moment in time, it was really important to get her going. And then for the TCU game, she's the leading scorer, unguardable the entire game. What have you seen with their dynamic?
That's the thing. She's got a special skill set, obviously, and Coach Staley knows that. And it's sometimes you just got to rein it in, as I like to say on the air. Sometimes you can't put too much mustard on the hot dog because, a lot of times when she makes all these passes, and she's a great passer, the teammates aren't ready for it because they're expecting her to shoot a layup, and she does the behind the back, and sometimes it's a little bit too much. So you want to let her be her because she is so dynamic, but at times I think, Dawn has to send a message that, what, we need to score as well, and sometimes the highlight reel stuff won't play. So, it's a balance. When it works, it's great, and sometimes it's just a little too much, but I think you're seeing, as of late, you're seeing a little bit more consistency, at least from Milasia in the decision making, because she can make it happen on both ends of the floor. I think she had 3 steals the other night to go along with her 20 points against TCU. So she can make a lot of things happen, and you don't want to curb that creativity too much. It's just every once in a while you got to send that message okay, let's get back to running the play. But when she really, where you don't mind seeing the creativity is when she makes a play on defense and she's going the other way quickly, and I think that's when she's best, when it's unscripted like that, as opposed to doing it in a half-court set.
Brad, I got just over a minute here for you for this one. I want to go stay with the Duke game. There was a stretch late, say maybe around the beginning of the fourth quarter. Dawn had a lot of the younger players in, and Duke made a little bit of a run, but Dawn kept them in for a while, ultimately made that full hockey line change with 5 starters coming back in. But take us through the importance, from your perspective, of how Dawn wants to see what those young players do, and she is willing to leave them in longer than it would seem most coaches would in this day and age.
Yeah, you've got to let them go at some point just to see what you've got before you get to conference play, and it's paying off because you're seeing it with Maddie McDaniel, the freshman point guard, who again was the number 3 point guard, I would guess, on the depth chart when the season started, and I figure, oh, this poor kid's not going to play this year, and she's playing a lot of minutes, and because of getting minutes like that, she's impacting the game even when it's still a game. She's been absolutely tremendous. She has 2 tremendous point guards in front of her with Raven and Pow Pow, but boy, getting minutes like she has in those situations has really improved her in a short time, and she's one of the most fun players to watch right now.
Listen, we always appreciate you. Carolina has USF on Sunday afternoon, a matinee over at CLA. It's a 2 o'clock tip-off. Brad will have the call right here. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to the Mullers. If we don't talk to you again before that, I think we probably will, but if we don't. And you know what? Merry Christmas and happy holidays anyway, man. We always appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Same to you guys, and just glad to be home for 3 games.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. A nice little home stretch before conference play begins. He is Brad Muller, SC Brad 92, to follow along on Twitter. Again, Carolina USF on Sunday. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You bet. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay and Elijah with you here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks again to Brad Muller for joining us. Brad could run for office, and he'd be really good at it. He's just he's a good dude. I don't know much about the next guy I'm going to talk about. If he's a good dude or not, I have no idea. He is State Representative Josh Williams of Ohio. And yesterday, he filed a bill in the Ohio House of Representatives that would classify flag planting at Ohio Stadium.
Just that one, I guess? Just
around Buckeye football games as a felony. I don't know what the acronym, it doesn't say here what the acronym stands for, but it's the OHIO Sportsmanship Act. And it's got periods in, after each letter. Why do I want to, and I don't know, but why do I want to think that it's like our house is ours or something?
Our house is ours would probably be the most fitting.
I'm going to read verbatim here from Adam Rittenberg's piece. It comes in response to Michigan's attempt to plant its flag after a November 30th win at Ohio State, which set off a brawl between the teams. According to Williams' bill, quote, no person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree. In the state of Ohio, a 5th degree felony is the least severe. It carries a penalty, however, of 6 to 12 months in prison, a $2,500 fine, and up to 5 years probation. Look, when you commit a felony, you're going to jail.
Yeah. He wants to put people in prison. However, he did say only flag poles with flags attached to them. He said nothing about planting a flag pole, like a naked flag pole, just right there.
No person shall plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of the college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Okay, fine. Here's the deal. In the center of the football field, plant that bleeper in the end zone.
He only said the center.
Put it on the 25. Put it on the little spot for the kickoff. I don't care where. This is the y'all. Oh, this is what drives me, and I'm a political guy. Okay, this is what I studied in college. I worked for 2 governors. My wife has made her living in politics. My mother worked in government. My grandfather worked in government. I got tons of friends that work across the street. So I understand how the game is played, but this is beyond stupid. And it's a felony? Are you really going to enforce it? And might I ask, is there nothing more pressing in the state of Ohio right now? Now,
nothing else you have to do?
For what it's worth, now this guy is not the the speaker apparently was spoken to as well. This guy's not the speaker. But the Speaker of the House apparently did say, and I'm going to paraphrase here, we're not going to get to this bill. So that's good. That's good. If you don't want, look, I know we all talked about this last week. And quite honestly, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because this is new and stupid. And sometimes in these final segments of an hour, we bring up stupid. Mm-hmm. Flag planting got talked about too much last week. Again, I'm not going to be so simplistic as to say, you don't want somebody to plant a flag on your field, then you better win the game. That is true. You know, if we're going to make these things really intense rivalries, then sometimes the intensity is going to ramp up. Otherwise, let's just not play, or let's have nothing but a bunch of cops come out and escort everybody around the field. I mean, no, what are we really doing here? But this guy says he's got his family is a mix of the 2 schools, that he got his degrees from Ohio State. He's an attorney. But I'm like, this is ridiculous, man. This is, again, thank God it's not going anywhere. But a politician saw fit to file the bill. Right? It's just, I don't know. a felony for that. Now, win the game. Win the game. That's still going to be what most people are going to say is the answer to getting this kind of thing done. All right, listen. Hour number 2 is in the books here. Coming up at the top of the hour, headlines of the day. Again, we'll have a little bit more on what's going on with Mike Shula as we get closer and closer to what seems to be an official announcement to make him the next OC at Carolina. A few thoughts going on around the rest of college football, and we'll get into some discussion as well of what's happening in the SEC. Could there be some new, not playoffs in conference play, but might we be looking at some changes to the college football playoff at the conference level? We'll get all to that for you in the final hour of the postgame show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We do have some good news, and that is that the accident on 26 westbound after Sunset Boulevard near exit 110 that was blocking the left lane has been cleared. So thankfully, traffic moving a lot more smoothly through that area. Still have an active accident, though, on Parkland Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Road, causing traffic backup, as well as one on Irmo Drive at North Lake Drive, and on I-20 eastbound over at the Monticello Road exit 68.
And it is 5 o'clock news time here on a Wednesday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Final hour coming at you as well from downtown Columbia's Herndon Chevy Studios. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Let's start with the local news. It is getting a lot of attention. It does appear, although it is not official as of yet, that Shane Beamer has his new offensive coordinator, and it will be a promotion from within. Offensive analyst Mike Shula, former offensive coordinator in the NFL and the college ranks, of course, former head coach at Alabama, in addition to playing for the University of Alabama in his youth, is going to be that guy. Our good friend Chris Clark was the first to report this, and we here at 107.5 The Game have also been able to confirm from sources on the football program that this indeed is going to be the case. While it has not been publicly and officially announced, every indication is pointing in this direction. And again, including those that we have spoken with. Chris had a few other things that he was passing along to, including the word that maybe this was the only person Shane Beamer spoke with. I would sincerely, and Chris is not saying that. He says that there's speculation that that's what it was. In fact, Chris says, in addition to hearing Shula's name, we heard Beamer's phone was ringing with interested candidates. You could probably guess that some folks were interested in coaching Lenoris Sellers. I would imagine that Shane absolutely did his due diligence on this. But, again, going back to a conversation with Brewer, if you can feel good about who you've got on staff and continue everything, including the verbiage, and all that you've taught and coached and worked on and learned and executed, that's going to be better for all involved for obvious reasons, right? You're not having to relearn. And Ryan even said, even if the play is the exact same play, send this guy here, that guy there, block this way, whatever, that if there's new verbiage, you're still having to learn. Might not take that long. Might take a long time. Who knows? That's beside the point, was Ryan's point. And because there had been some early speculation like, hey, why not just promote Shula? Well, that's what they're going to do. And once again, I believe this makes a lot of sense. Shane may ultimately shed some light, Elijah, on who else he spoke with. Nobody's going to just there's no. Yeah, I mean, look, you spoke with others, but you have a comfort level. And Mike Shula has a hell of a resume.
I mean, the list of quarterbacks that he has coached since 2000 as either a quarterbacks coach or offensive coordinator is pretty solid. And there's a variety, even at the college level. I mean, the year that Brody Croyle threw for 2,500 yards was the year that he won 10 games as the head coach at Alabama. I mean, Jay Fiedler, David Garrard for David Garrard's only Pro Bowl season, Cam Newton, late stage Eli Manning, the infancy of Daniel Jones, where he might have been his best, actually, was that rookie year. And then as an analyst or as part of the staff, we got to witness firsthand what the Bills do with Josh Allen.
I think it's a solid choice. Again, a guy with a absolutely proven track record at a bunch of levels and working with some big names. And, like the David Garrard one, that tells me something. Like, hey, I can hone your craft. Or in the case of a guy like Cam Newton, who is so naturally gifted, let's really focus in on where to make things better. Even the most gifted athlete needs to be coached. And we were talking earlier about that with Langston. Like, man, somebody had to coach Michael Jordan. Well, Dean Smith and Doug Collins and Phil Jackson did a pretty good job of it, right? I mean, somebody's got to get out there and do it. So we'll see how this goes. Again, not official yet, but every single indication that we are getting, and we've spoken to people, again, very very close to the decision making process, that this is happening. It's just a matter of when they officially announce this. And there was some speculation that this may simply be a matter of waiting to figure out exactly what Dowell Loggins is going to do or not do. Is Dowell going to find a way to coach the Gamecocks and still do everything he needs to do to get his tenure at App State up and running? Or will that be too much to ask? Some of those things. Like this week, Dowell can focus on Appalachian State because there's really not a lot going on. The guys go in, they're doing weightlifting and something, but it's exam week, so there's not going to be a lot going on anyway. Next week, Shane said they'll have a few days to kind of get it going, and by then maybe we'll have a decision on exactly what the staff looks like for the bowl game and beyond. Meanwhile, we talked about this last hour, but there is a little as NIL resources, Belichick's salary, resources for staff, and a reporting structure. It sounds to me, listen, when Bill Belichick ran football for the New England Patriots, period.
He ran all football.
He ran football. There are obviously business things that others reported to Mr. Kraft on, but there was no general manager. There was no personnel director. There was Bill Belichick. And that's fine. It worked beautifully until it didn't. But for the vast, yeah, well, and we see how important that was, don't we?
Kind of helps.
It did. But reporting structure, I guess, this is me speculating now, okay? But most of you probably know how things work in college. Every sport has an administrator. It is there's someone on staff, typically as an associate AD, that works directly with that team and that coach. And they are with them a lot more often. And then that person will take a lot of information back to the athletics director. And that's because you got a lot of teams. And North Carolina has like 20-something sports. So it sounds to me like Bill Belichick either only wants to report to Bubba Cunningham or that he doesn't even want to report to Bubba Cunningham.
He wants to be his own athletic director.
I mean, I don't know that, right? But it feels that way. Like this is what I'm used to. I'm the football coach. I'm football. Not even the football coach. I am football. And it can't always work that way. See, this is another thing. It doesn't work that way in college.
No, never has, and it won't for anyone.
No, and it doesn't work that way in most of the NFL either. Again, there's typically a general manager, and that person typically reports to a team president, and that person reports to the ownership. Again, Bill Belichick reported to Mr. Kraft. And again, it worked. I know I've already said that. I'm just saying. So a reporting, and that's something that we mentioned earlier. There was a columnist in the Raleigh paper that basically said, yeah, you don't want to have to report through 8 different levels. Okay. Well, yeah, and it's probably not 8, but it's probably 3. And again, you just want to get to the president or chancellor? Do you want to get to the board chair? What are we talking about here, Coach?
I love just like the thought of firing a 73-year-old coach who also clashed with the board of trustees to bring in a 72-year-old coach who just straight up wants to act like you don't exist and will have everything, will have all the power over you do. One guy who wants all of it, right? Like this, there's just so much of this, Jay Phillips, that is right in front of us that tells us this would not go well at all. And North Carolina says, this sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Well, he's never coached in college. There's been a lot of talk that, well, hey, his dad was always a college coach, and his dad even coached in Chapel Hill for a couple of years. And then I was like, yeah, well, he was like 3.
And that was also his dad, not him.
Yeah, and I know his dad was a longtime Navy assistant, and he talks about his reverence for Annapolis and the Naval Academy, and that's all wonderful, but he's never done it.
Like, dude, my dad has been he is a civil engineer, has been for 35 plus years. You know what I still can't do? Math, buddy. Right. I can't. All right. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I cannot build a bridge. Yeah.
I cannot. No.
But
absolutely not.
And look, the man knows football like nobody's business. If you missed our conversation, Elijah and mine, at the top of the 4 o'clock hour on this subject, like I said, on the one hand, I totally get it, because you would be getting a top 5er all time. No doubt. Mm-hmm. No doubt. I'm not even here to debate that.
6 Super Bowls on a resume is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not even here to debate his coaching prowess. But there are so many other things. It's not just football. We've talked about that a lot around here, and I made the analogy of Will Muschamp and comparing him to Bill Belichick. Will's a good dude. Will's incredibly smart. But Will didn't want to do a lot of the head coaching stuff that college football coaching requires. He wanted to watch film and go to practice and make things better. And that's cool. That's not wrong. But you've got to do more. And there's a whole PR aspect of it.
There's politicking involved.
And how many of you have, always, how much fun did people have through the decades with Bill Belichick in public? He doesn't want to be in public. The only reason he ever did any press conference at all is because he has to, because it's mandated.
He was contractually
It's
obligated.
in his contract. And the NFL mandates a certain number of appearances. You don't have a choice. You can't sign you can sign your contract, but it's in there. You can't take that clause out. I'll do everything in this contract except the media or the public. You know what? Nope.
Could you imagine him on a coach's call-in show?
No. I can't.
Could you imagine him having to tell somebody to turn their radio down so they could ask a question?
Right.
His head will explode.
Hey, Coach, it's Billy from Laurinburg. Why don't we throw to the tight end?
Billy, turn your radio down.
Right.
Turn your radio down. There's always the first timer that doesn't know that when you call in, you can't have your radio in the background. It'll mess some things up. You got to turn it down. And
Coach,
Bill will not be so kind and patient to just tell
Tommy
him to turn
from
it
Murphy. I just thank you for what you've done. How are we looking at the backup offensive tackle position? I don't see any out there.
Well, if you don't play one at a time, we're on to Wake Forest.
We're on to do.
We're on to Pittsburgh.
That's what it would make. So we'll see. I don't know, but the ball is in his court. That's what we know. Concluding our integrated media headlines of the day, we talked about LeBron yesterday potentially being traded. Now the L.A. Lakers have announced through head coach J.J. Redick, that's a weird thing to say,
It will never feel normal,
that LeBron is not with the team. He's out for personal reasons. It's an excused absence. He did not play against Portland the other night because of a hurt foot. It was the first game he had missed this season. L.A. has just 2 games over the next week and a half. So Coach Redick gave him the day off and said, get what you need done. Concerning here? Is this
I don't know.
LeBron and Rich Paul starting to work some deals?
Well, no, I hope it's nothing personal for LeBron, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they have the guts to trade LeBron James. How about that? I don't think they have the guts to actually follow through with that, especially after they just bent the knee and wasted a draft pick on his kid.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But it's again, whispers of a trade early in the week. Now the middle of the week, he has a excused absence.
Personal stuff, or maybe he just doesn't want to work.
Maybe it's just it, but we know he does. He loves to play. That's what he does.
75 to 82 games a year plus playoffs.
Playoffs.
Since I was 8 years old.
The LeBron saga is getting interesting, to say the least.
I was 8 years old his rookie year.
That's our integrated media headlines of the day, brought to you by Integrated Media, 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more. Plus, they're putting together the brand new Pro Swing on Forest Drive. Oh, my gosh. I was in there yesterday. It's going to be fantastic. Check them out. That's our good friends at Integrated Media and Pro Swing. More on what's going on around Gamecock football when the postgame show returns. Tell you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. Listen, it's going to get cold again tonight and for the next several days. Don't know what the next few weeks look like. You never know around here. That's just it. You need to know that your system is ready to handle whatever weather comes its way whenever in South Carolina, right? In December, we could have a 20-degree night and we could have an 80-degree day. You just never know. 803-677-1500. Get one of their great technicians into the house. Make sure everything's running well. And if it's not, then take advantage of a fantastic offer. 12 months, no interest if you buy in 2024. $1,500 instant rebate. 15-year parts and labor guarantee, and they can also guarantee to get you financed to make it more affordable. You can get a free quote online. Call AAAtoday.com is the website. Or again, you can call them up and talk with them. 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you to AAA Heating and Air. Twenty minutes after 5 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Before we do anything else, Elijah's in a giving mood. And he has 3 pair of tickets to Carolina, South Florida women's basketball Sunday matinee at the CLA. Always a great crowd at CLA. So if you want to go, callers 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Elijah just showed me his hand signals there. It's like semaphore with flags.
That's right. Yeah, we're having to do hand signals. That's how we call plays around here.
Callers 4, 5, and 6, 803-404-6100. Elijah, and be patient now while he gets winter information. But callers 4, 5, and 6, you're going to see Carolina play on Sunday. So congratulations in advance to 3 of you and the friends that you'll take. Good stuff. Speaking of Carolina, let's get into a few things. First off, our Our good friends at Gamecock Central reporting through the Garnet Trust that Kason Henry is indeed coming back. He has signed a new name, image, likeness contract with the Garnet Trust. So a veteran O-lineman over there on the right side will be back next year. He was banged up pretty much in 2023, like pretty much everybody was, but started all 12 games, 766 snaps in 2024, 86 plays against Old Dominion, and had just 4 penalties all season long. So Kason Henry is back. We already knew that Trevon Ball had signed a new deal with the Garnet Trust, and that's the way of the world. I know it's odd for me too, y'all. I've been doing this a long time, and it's weird. That's probably the right word to talk about guys signing new deals to hang around in college. But that's where it is, and like I say, love it, hate it, somewhere in between. It's here. And listen, another thing, too, let me now opine a little bit. You're not seeing, like, there's some schools that have had tons of dudes enter the portal, and sometimes they're really good. At Carolina, all you're hearing about the biggest names is that they're hanging around. There are some guys, as Shane alluded to on Sunday, there are guys that, and this is what what transferring has always been about, guys that want to go play. I'm here for that. I'm glad they don't have to sit out anymore, which I always thought was a horrible thing. Ultimately, I think we get some things cleaned up when it comes to just open-ended transfers, but that's not coming anytime in the near-term future. So for now, we have to navigate through it accordingly. But these guys want to hang around, and as long as everything is where they need it to be for them, then it's happening. And I think it is. I'll tip my cap to the folks at the Garnet Trust and around the university for making this happen. As Ray Tanner told us yesterday, soon enough here, a school like South Carolina will be sharing a significant portion of its income, or at least its revenue, with players. And when I say significant, it's going to be a shade over $20 million as long as everything goes through legally with the settlement. And again, that's still a couple of months away, and it would take effect next school year. So, and again, that would be something different than NIL. So think about that too. So we'll see what Kason's going to do I want to see, barbecue restaurants or whatever step up and pay these dudes, right, for NIL stuff. More car dealers do it. I'm not saying shame on you or anything like that, but that's part of what NIL was supposed to be, right? I'd like to see more of that locally, and I think we will. We're already seeing some of it. A couple of women's basketball players are doing a commercial for an attorney in town, and there'll be more of that kind of stuff coming around, I'm sure. We'll see what happens with the baseball team. I would think that Ethan's going to have a nice opportunity in his final year in Columbia, just as an aside. But Kason Henry will indeed be back for Carolina. Also, according to our good friend Wes Mitchell, South Carolina is doing a nice job with Grambling linebacker Andrew Jones. He has a visit now set with South Carolina for next Tuesday, I believe it is, the 17th. He was the SWAC co-defensive player of the year. He's 6'2", 220 pounds, had 122 tackles, including 57 solos, 20.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 defensive score. He would have 1 season left to play. According to Wes, he says the Gamecocks will be active at linebacker and in the interior of the defensive line. I mean, you're losing a lot of guys. Debo Williams, Demetrius Knight, Bam Martin Scott, all will be moving on. A lot of guys in the interior of that line, Tonka Hemingway, Boogie Huntley, amongst others, are going to be moving on. But this guy's name was out there a lot this morning, Andrew Jones from Grambling, obviously a fantastic football school. And SWAC football is excellent. This would be a big addition. I don't have here from Wes.
Great center fielder, too. My goodness.
Yeah, but he spells his name the traditional way, not the untraditional way. But that'd be a nice get, even if it's for a season. And, again, you're used to that. Look at Demetrius Knight, man. Nobody knew what he was going to do, and he turned into a great player. That was fun to see. You think I know to go to the other side, like Josh Simon was here a couple of years, but came from Western Kentucky. I mean, the evaluation process is so crucial. And I know sometimes fans, I don't mean just Carolina fans. I mean fans across the country, Elijah, like, well, I want a guy from, big state U to come to my school now. Mm-hmm. Well, they're usually, once you kind of hit that level, but you want guys that want to be here.
Yeah.
And come in and want to continue to develop. And you do realize how many guys are really good at those mid-major levels. We don't use that term in football very much, but we're going to start using it a lot more.
Late bloomers. I mean, you want late bloomers, man. Like, that's the thing. You want guys who were maybe diamond in the rough finds that maybe they had one or two defects coming out of high school. Like, maybe this is a linebacker that has all the intangibles, right? But maybe they might be slightly undersized at the position. Or they maybe have a couple things footwork-wise that they need work on, but a coach is able to fix that and it unlocked their potential. If somebody can already go ahead and do that work for you and you can identify that work has been done and that all they have to do is give them the opportunity to do it at a big stage and put them in there, you do it, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why someone like a Torricelli Simpkins can play at NC Central for a while and then be one of your best run blockers whenever he comes here for the year that he's here. Like, those are the guys that are the best finds, honestly.
Yep.
Like, the transfer portal is cool to get a splashy one because we have turned this so much into free agency. So, like, when somebody like a Quinshawn Judkins went in the transfer portal, from Ole Miss, and he goes to Ohio State, it's splashy. It makes the headlines. It's one of those that gets talked about a lot. But the ones that ultimately make the biggest differences are the ones who developed maybe when not all the eyeballs in the world were on them and they got to solely focus on that development and become better players. And sometimes what you are at 18 is a lot different than what you are at 21. Mm-hmm. And getting the 21-year-old who has unlocked all of their potential, who has experience and can help you right away, is sometimes the better find than a 4-star, recruit coming out of high school.
Hey, listen, at 18, I was about $150, and by 21, I was a solid 165.
Oh, hey, that's really funny, Jay Phillips. I still have my old senior year program. And it has all of our weights listed.
Yeah.
6'4", would you like to guess what I weighed?
What year?
This is 2013, or 2012, 2013 basketball season.
I'm going to say you were at about, well, you're tall, but 175?
I was 143.
Oh, my.
I was rail thin. I then topped out in college at about 235.
Yeah.
Alcohol, Jay Phillips. Alcohol. It will put the weight on you. But you know what? Some of us are late bloomers when it comes to that.
I was going to blame beer and Village Idiot pizza.
Yes. That was when I taught.
And Public House wings. I couldn't always
Public House wings, definitely.
Yeah. I ate a lot of Public House wings and a lot of Village Idiot pizza.
And then I had to have help from friends to help me get back down to a weight that's less, more suitable for me.
Well, good for you, man.
So, yeah. But you know what? It took a lot of work to get up to that. It took a lot of work.
Come back on the other side. More coaches' votes across the SEC when it comes to season superlatives. We'll do that for you and start checking in on some of the bowl game matchups. You are listening to the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll start with the one that we have in Lexington County because the rest are going to be here in Richland County, and that one's on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Barr Road. All these again here in Richland County, starting with one on 20 eastbound over at the Monticello Road exit 68. One on 77 northbound before Killian Road near exit 22. One on Parkland Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Road. Got two accidents on US 176 at Broad River Road, one over at I-20 and the other one closer to St. Andrews Road.
All right, welcome back into the post-game show. It is Drive Around the SEC time, and we will get to those season superlatives. But while we were in commercial break,
stuff happened.
We got the breaking news alert, and this time Adam Schefter is involved as well as Pete Thamel and Chris Lowe. The latter cover college football. The former covers the NFL. Adam Schefter tweeting the following. Chapel Bill. Six-time Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Belichick is finalizing a deal to become the new head coach at North Carolina. Sources tell me, Pete Thamel, and Chris Lowe. Belichick is going back to school where his father served as an assistant coach in the 1950s. So I don't see finality yet. And I haven't seen Bubba Cunningham or anyone in leadership at Chapel Hill say anything. They're not going to say anything yet. But these are three of the very best in the business at what they do. So I don't know now what interrupts the process, finalizing a deal. So they've come to the terms, and so now, we joked earlier, Bill Belichick only reported to Mr. Kraft throughout the bulk of his career in Foxborough. And there apparently were some sticking points about who he's going to report to. Now, if he just wants to report to the AD, fine. You're not going to get to, bypass the AD.
Maybe it's Michael Jordan that he only has to report to. It's a theory. Maybe.
Look, again, this man, found a way in the era of free agency to continually turn the roster over and keep on winning. And yes, he was blessed like Bill Walsh was, or maybe like Chuck Noll was, or like Tom Landry was, or Vince Lombardi, and had also, hey, some of the best quarterbacks to ever play. Bart Starr was really good. Roger Staubach was really good. Terry Bradshaw was really good. And Tom Brady's really good. And Joe Montana's really good. Even Steve Young's in the Hall of Fame. So on that part, it's great. If the other stuff works, cool. I'm here for it because North Carolina, they could be so good. I said this earlier if y'all missed it. And again, those of you who grew up around here, and Elijah, I'll say you grew up around here. You just grew up in a different border state with North Carolina.
Different border state, yeah.
But sleeping giant, if that's a term people like to use, that's fine, whatever. I'm not really here for that. The point is the state of North Carolina produces tons of high school talent and towns big and small all across North Carolina, and they have both. Love high school football. But for whatever reason, the flagship university never really has. It's never loved it, and we know why. Primarily because they've loved basketball more, and that's great. The thing is, a school like that can do both. You can do what Florida's done. You can do what Oklahoma's done. You can do what Texas has done. Heck, I'm surprised Ohio State isn't better at basketball on a more consistent basis just because they can. But I digress. If they ever really get to it, man, they could be as good as Georgia because the state is huge, population-wise, I mean, not just geographically. What does North Carolina have, like 12 million people or something? It's huge, man.
It's big, yeah.
And they got,
large cities.
and again, they got tons of talent. I mean, high school football in Charlotte alone. Charlotte is like a little mini Atlanta these days when it comes to recruiting. You want to know what schools recruit Charlotte? All of them. And Rock Hill.
Yeah.
All of them.
Rock Hill,
dude,
too.
That's it, man. All of them recruit there. Just like Atlanta, just like Jacksonville, Dallas, Houston. They all send people to Charlotte. And that's just one example. But if they get it going, but does he want to do the other stuff? The answer is no, he doesn't.
There's
Will
no
he?
way.
Will
No
he
way.
anyway? I'll be really interested to see. But look, I think it's good for college football. If somebody like this wants
Sure.
to be a part of it, you forget about what you're going to pay him, and I'm sure he's going to make $8, $9, $10 million bucks. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how quickly you vault him to the top of the heap. But market value, what was he making? I mean, I think he was making close to 20 when he was in New England, right?
Yeah, it was a lot because he was also like the GM.
Yeah.
You know, he is working a few of those jobs.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see. We'll see how he handles teenagers as opposed to adults.
Right.
Like grown adults. And we'll see how well he's willing to take, a kid being upset over not having a promise fulfilled, which has happened in college football a lot. We'll see how he handles having to do all of the media circus, the politicking that is involved with being a football coach in the Southeast United States, collegiately. It is different here. Even though North Carolina's not in the SEC, it is still the way football is covered around here.
Yeah.
He will have to do a lot of politicking with that job. And we'll see how he likes the board of trustees and the people that are the suits around the program that donate a lot of money start breathing down his neck if he gives up 50 points to James Madison. I'm giving him a 20-point cushion here than to what Mac Brown
What's he
gave
going to
up.
do when they do give up that many points to James
Right.
Madison?
Yeah. Because there's a turnaround needed because they were bad.
Right.
They were really bad this year.
And to your point about why they're not in the SEC right now, again, more change is likely headed our way when it comes to conference realignment. And we've talked a bunch through the last couple of years that the University of North Carolina would be a magnificent prize for either the Southeastern Conference or Big Ten Conference, and that they would be courted by both. So if this is a move that is partially, like even on background, like designed to better position them, knowing football is what drives that. Even if they want to be great at basketball, we'll see what they do in basketball. Either way, they're going to come into a good league. We just saw what Alabama did to them in basketball, right? And then you got to do it in football too. Are you ready?
All 16 teams in the SEC are in the top 66 in Ken Palm.
Yeah. I mean, are you ready for that, North Carolina? Maybe this is the kind of guy maybe they finally do need to be slapped in the face with something that says, if you want to be good, you have to actually attempt it. You can't just want it. You have to actually go do it. That's what I've said before. I joke sometimes. I would tell my kids, and a lot of you are the same way. It's like, hey, well, look, I'm asking you to clean your room. I'm not asking you to build us a new house to put the stuff in. It's not hard. You just have to do it. Now, in this case, he may actually be asking them to build a new house. But he's going to tell them, but you can do it.
There's something about trying to take North Carolina football seriously after firing Mac Brown. Say, all right, here's your chance. It's time to take you seriously. And they hire 72-year-old Bill Belichick.
That's
has
the
never
flip of the
coached a
coin.
day in college football.
I think it's a big risk. Again, you get the football guy, but it's not just that.
There's so much more.
Yeah. If
the game started passing him by in the NFL.
That's what a lot of people have been saying today.
The game passed him by then.
Yeah, like as
Did
soon as he
people not
lost that
realize
quarterback, do you realize it all fell apart?
How bad those Patriots teams were post Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Tom Brady doesn't have any eligibility. Hate to break it to
No, he does
break
not.
It, hate to break it to our friends up north.
I don't even think Drake May has any left.
No,
Sorry.
doesn't have it.
No.
Doesn't have it. So on one hand, you hired a 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach. On the other hand, you can't win a Super Bowl. You're not in the NFL. And B, if you want to be taken seriously, I don't think this is really a serious hire. I think this is a lot of people, a lot of suits in a room shooting the bull saying, hey, we should try getting Bill Belichick. Yeah, that's going to
now they'll look at us.
Yeah. And I don't think that's going to be the response this warrants.
And I mean, well, you're signing a 5-year thing, and then you hope that you're passing the reins to somebody who's ready to do it for
his son.
Right. And I feel like that might be part of it, huh?
Yeah.
I think that's actually part of it.
That was reportedly part of it. I don't know if that made it into the final part of the deal, but like you're doing this just to hire Steve Belichick later,
right?
The Washington defensive coordinator,
right? Like okay, yeah. We'll see. Again, not done yet, but Shefty is now involved from his level. Plus CeeLo and Pete Thamel. So that's big names chasing the story. All right, we'll get you those SEC superlatives as we continue the drive around the league coming up. All right, final few minutes of the post-game show here on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm kind of like Langston. It is getting ready to get to that point, isn't it?
Where you're not going to know.
We don't know what day it is. Yeah.
Well, that's every day.
Well, I can screw things
been
up.
that way.
I can tell you that much. We did spend a lot of time on the Belichick situation, and again, hey, if it works, cool.
It's weird.
I don't know. I don't know who did that National Sports Minute that we just heard, but hey, he'll have them bowl eligible every year. I'm not sure that's what you hire Bill Belichick for.
Mac Brown almost had you bowl eligible every year, and you fired him because that wasn't good enough.
Right. Anyway, to get into some SEC stuff before we do get you out of here, the individual awards were announced today. Yesterday we had the all-conference teams. Offensive Player of the Year, Dylan Sampson of the University of Tennessee. He had a heck of a season. Sampson broke Tennessee's record for rushing yards in a season at 1,485. He broke Tennessee's record for rushing touchdowns with 22. He broke Tennessee's records for points scored with 132. And again, the 22 total touchdowns were the most ever. So rushing touchdowns. So he didn't have a pass-catching touchdown this year, huh? He has rushed for at least 100 yards 10 times this season.
It's a lot.
And he enters the playoffs as the SEC leader in rush yards per game at 123.8. Congratulations to Dylan Sampson. The defensive player of the year in the Southeastern Conference is Kyle Kennard. Congratulations to Kyle. Yeah. 15 and a half tackles for loss in the regular season, 11 and a half sacks. Both were best in the SEC. His sack total is 6th in America. Of course, he also won the Bronco Nagurski Award up in Charlotte the other night. That goes to the nation's top defensive player. So congratulations to Kyle Kennard. Kentucky's Alex Rayner was the special teams player of the year. South Carolina's Lenoris Sellers, the freshman of the year. Way to go, Lenoris. 2,274 pass yards, 17 touchdowns, 655 yards on the ground, 7 scores there. He earned SEC Weekly honors 4 different times during the season, including, of course, his amazing performance against the Clemson Tigers. Diego Pavia, I know this is a weird one to give Diego, but he was called the newcomer of the year in the SEC, which is obviously apt. He's a newcomer to the SEC. 2,133 yards through the air, 17 touchdowns, rushed for 716 and 6 scores, including one against Carolina. And he was a semifinalist for both the Maxwell Award and the Davey O'Brien Award, which go to the top quarterbacks in the country. Brady Cook was the Scholar Athlete of the Year. And in terms of, again, this is the coach's vote. The Coach of the Year was Clark Lee of Vanderbilt, who I would imagine got the nod over Shane Beamer. There's a lot of chatter on Twitter about how Coach Lee led Vandy to 6 wins and a bowl game for the first time in 6 years. They take on Georgia Tech down in Birmingham a couple days after Christmas. I know around here, listen, Shane has already been named SEC Coach of the Year by the Associated Press and by USA Today. Elijah and I joked earlier that the coaches, likely gave Clark, at least most of them, I'm sure some voted for Shane, but gave Clark the nod because, hey, you beat Alabama and you kept them out of the playoff. Way to go.
Most importantly, kept them out of the playoff.
Again, we kid. We don't know that to be the reasoning. I know some Gamecock fans, like I said, that'll stick with you a little bit, but
maybe I'm not kidding.
Well, yeah, but there are multiple awards. Yeah, so. Anyway, there you go. That's the individual awards. Again, Dylan Sampson, Offensive Player of the Year. Kyle Kennard, Defensive Player of the Year. Alex Rayner, Special Teams Player of the Year. Lenoris Sellers, Freshman of the Year. Diego Pavia, Newcomer of the Year. Brady Cook, the Scholar Athlete of the Year. Oh, I missed one. The Jacobs Blocking Trophy goes to Kelvin Banks of Texas and Will Campbell of LSU, both of whom will be first-round picks.
They might be top 15 picks.
Yeah, first half of the draft or the round. So there you go. And again, yesterday, 6 Gamecocks named to the all-conference teams, either first, second, or third team, including Kyle Kennard, Nick Emanwari, and Kai Kroger on the first team, and Lenoris Sellers behind 2 outgoing quarterbacks, Jackson Dart and Quinn Ewers, finishing ahead of Nico Iamaliava, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, amongst others, Brady Cook. in the SEC this season. So congratulations to all those guys. And now we'll see what happens with the national level. AP team, I'm not sure what the date is on the AP All-America squad. That's typically been the one that is the most prestigious.
Yeah, that when it goes down as All-American, that's usually what's referred to when you refer to it as All-American.
And I would think that Kyle Kennard has a really good shot on that one as a first-teamer.
I would say he's a shoe-in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was one list that came out, and he was second team on something the other day, and I was like, really? Okay. He just wins a national award for Best Defensive Player of the Year, but it wasn't the AP one, so we'll see how that all goes down. Thanks, as always, to our good friend Langston Moore and to our buddy Brad Muller for joining us. Congrats to those of you who won tickets to the women's game. Yours truly away for a little bit. Not long. I'll be back in a couple days. Elijah has you in capable hands for the next couple of days. Well, we'll see. Call me if you need me. Y'all have a great night.
I'll call you on air.